It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yep, that look comes with the confidence of knowing what's going on. Well, hopefully, because we're going to put him on the spot right now. It's a Monday, sort of. I think we're trying to wrap our heads around it. I think we can safely say that a lot of people are making a long weekend of it for various reasons. Of course, tomorrow is Human Rights Day, a public holiday that does need to be commemorated. And today is also different because of the planned national lockdown. And we'll unpack that shortly with news editor Roy Simpson. But of course, we love to hear what's actually happening on the ground floor with you. So please send us updates, send us voice notes, send us videos of your area. You're becoming almost a citizen reporter this morning, but we want to know how this is affecting you on that base level. 063-408-8863, and especially if you're needing help, just put it out there. Roy, thanks for joining us this morning. It's crazy when your job becomes almost like a real-time update in terms of the service that's offered. So thank you for putting yourself out there, and thank you for getting in your car, because everyone was a little bit nervous to just get in their car this morning. How nervous were you to get in your car, and how nervous should all of us be to get out there into the world today?
I wasn't that nervous myself this morning. I think that's partly because based in the Western Cape as we are at the moment, things are a little different down here. And to be quite honest, it's a rainy, cold day down in the Western Cape, and that is going to have an impact because this is one of those diffuse things where the EFF. It's the EFF shutdown, isn't it? Despite the fact that SAFTU is involved and they have more members than the EFF has. Anyway, it's their shutdown. And also the support base here is lower. But elsewhere in the country, we've been tracking. We know kind of what to expect. And I think what to expect is sort of everything all at once, everywhere. In the sense of lots of burning tires on roads. Stone throwing, those sort of things, disruptive things, rather than any big mass violence around a particular thing.
Which is, I suppose, on some level, something to be grateful for.
Well, no, the other is just going to grind away the security forces. So we know that Fani Masomela has said that he's not going to tolerate anything. He's called up everybody who's literally the sick. Police have been told, come back to work.
We need you
Everyone
today.
is on leave, you're not on leave. Then you had Becky Cele saying, we're going to own the air, which means they're going to deploy all their helicopters and things like that. And there's also over 3,400 troops on the ground, SANDF. So from that perspective, the state's done everything it can. But this morning we've heard from Braamfontein in Joburg, stun grenades there, arrests there, and already quite a lot of agitation happening. Down in the Cape, Bonteheuvel, there's the tyres been set up there and set alight. So it's on.
It's on. How do we approach this then? What would your advice be? Where do we go for updates? Because there is a lot of fake news, even looking at the policing forums, and well done for the communities for stepping up and trying to kind of prepare, but without knowing exactly what's going on or where, as you say, these sporadic hotspots, we're thinking a taxi rank, or you try to assimilate where it possibly could be. How do we approach a day like today? What does your heart tell you?
If you have a WhatsApp group that you absolutely trust for information, that's proven to be reliable over time, then fine, then use that. Otherwise, I would say your go-to for today is local radio. It's the fastest medium, it's the one that will receive information in the same way as we're asking people to give us information this morning. They'll be doing the same, and they're able to turn that information fast. So listen to your traffic reports in particular. They're going to give you a lot of information about what's going down where.
Ground zero. So the issue seems to be becoming more and more complex. What is driving this at its heart? We were joking, almost quite flippant about saying, well, the EFF have achieved what they wanted to achieve already. It's becoming more than that right now. What is driving this at its heart?
Well, a vacuum was created for the EFF to step into, and that vacuum is that people haven't been protesting. There are fundamental, really problematic issues, like load shedding. You kind of, when the lights... When we go up to stage 412, you sort of go, why is no one on the streets protesting? And that's the thing, no one's been protesting that. The state president has been involved in something very dodgy. We can't quite...
Figure it out
and take it to
the signs are there.
Yeah, but he's been involved in something, and there's been a muted response to that. So there's frustration, and the economy, of course. at 32-something%, and the IMF saying 35% incoming. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. And we also know we're the most unequal society on the planet. So that's all of that stuff, and no one's expressing it. So this has become the opportunity for all of those frustrations to kind of come out and to have their moment in the sun, so to speak.
And I think it really is worth considering that as you plan out your day today. I know this will be a major frustration for many, possibly a dangerous situation for many, but there is a lot going on in the country right now that, as Roy says, is frustrating people. People have been pushed beyond the brink. So just think about the flip side of that coin before you react and polarize yourself, but stay safe. Most importantly, look after yourself, look after your families, and let us know if anything is happening in your area. 063-408-8863. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to see some pics and videos.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked so bright and early on this Monday morning. I know part of an unofficial long weekend that many have taken, but a bit of a crazy time this morning. So we're here to connect with you. There are no shortage of big issues to talk about, and our discussion on the events unfolding today are vitally important. We are talking about the so-called national lockdown, but of course there are a lot of other areas to cover, load shedding happening, and hopefully Roy doesn't feel too much pressure on his shoulders this morning to be our go-to. But it does become a lot more relevant when things are unfolding as we speak. Perhaps the national shutdown eclipsing a lot of other areas. We've noticed in the news some interesting stories at the moment. And I'm wondering where the best place to start is. Before we get onto the car power ships, maybe if we can just touch on what's going on with a very high-profile father and son assassination. It's starting to unfold like a movie. How does this tie into the Guptas? We know that the father and son team involved in liquidating some of their companies. How has this evolved to the point that it is? It's starting to look like an international spy film. Well, I suppose it already has.
It is, and it starts raising concerning thoughts about places, you know, like Mexico, for example, where politicians get almost routinely assassinated by gangs. And it's not an unrealistic comparison, and it's really important. I think you've raised one of the most important stories there is at the moment. Yeah, so this is Kluta Murray and his son Thomas. They're driving in their car on the N1 somewhere near Sandton, get driven off the road, conveniently to a place where there are no CCTV cameras, and gunned down. The son died in the car, the father then died in hospital. And as you say, they were liquidators looking into Bosasa and a range of different Gupta-linked companies. And the thing about a liquidator in this case is their job is to get all the money. So that means they have access to everything about where the money went. And that actually, in terms of information that can be held, that makes them really, really dangerous. It immediately brings to mind people like Babita Deokaran, who was chasing down R1 million fraud in Tembisa. She was gunned down in August of 21. And there's almost this pattern of assassinations associated with whistleblowers and with people who can unpick who's guilty of stealing the money.
This is terrifying then in the notion of this ever being sorted out. And I don't mean in finding a solution for corruption, but I mean in terms of this particular trail, because there was such a strong sense and such a visual moment, and we were given that opportunity to make this the case, almost a global case. And it feels like, how are we going to be able to move forward? How do you get a liquidation firm to get onto this moving forward? What is the next step? Or does this become an unmanageable situation? Where do you see this going?
It depends on their record keeping. Is there a baton to hand on? Can another liquidator come in and get a laptop full of information, for example, detailing everything about where we are now? Because when you look at Bosasa, for example, it's really important to have that trail, because you've got incredibly powerful people who've already been named in the Zondo Commission. So you've got Nomvula Mokonyane, you've got Jacob Zuma, you've got Gwede Mantashe, Mapisan Kakula's brothers in there. There's the post office, the airports company. So it is big, but hopefully the trail that these guys have been threading from person to person, from payment to payment, exists somewhere. and can be accessed by someone who can pick up the baton. That's all we can hope for. And the idea that people have to die for this is really frightening, but we just hope that the struggle continues and that step by step we get to a point where this stuff can come to court and where justice can be served.
Yeah, and I know it is zero consolation in this case, but you have to hope that as it intensifies, we're going to see this sort of news story surfacing around it, but hopefully it means that we are getting closer and closer to some kind of understanding of the full picture there. I can remember reporting on stories around Bosasa back in the day, completely unbeknownst to what was going on around us. But now we know, and we need to hear from you. If you are being affected by anything that is in the news today, especially our national shutdown, we'd love to hear from you. 063-408-8863. What does it look like on your street? How is it affecting your world?
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yeah, it looks like the cat that got the cream this morning. Now, I think he's enjoying it. I'm obviously talking about Roy Simpson being able to unpack so many of the issues that affect us, the man on the street. And we've obviously chatted a lot about what's been going on in Mzansi. So please, South Africa, stay safe today out there and keep letting us know what's happening in your area. But let's cast a wider gaze now and take a look at what's happening around the rest of the world. Is Putin a war criminal? Possibly. I think most of us think that he absolutely should be. Should Trump be arrested? I'm actually just going to leave it. You can send us your WhatsApps now, and that's where we'll leave the conversation. We love the fact that, yes, the world does care right now. If nothing else, the fact that everyone is interested in what's going on, that's a good first step. But I think we're kind of having the wool pulled over our eyes. It kind of feels like we should be focusing on Putin and Trump, but then there's a little bit of an issue going on in Paris. People are taking to the streets, stealing all of the headlines. Why are they so angry?
Well, the anger is all about this long-running thing about, they're calling it pension reform. And in fact, Emmanuel Macron was voted in with one of these as part of his manifesto, that the money's running out to pay out pensions. So what they want to do is they want to raise the retirement age, the official retirement age, from 62 to 64. But then you've also got to pay in a year longer. And the French take their workers' rights really, really seriously. And the fact that he's been pushing through with this has been increasingly creating these protests. And then what happened last week was they were going to go to the National Assembly and vote on this reform package, on this pension package. And apparently, literally minutes before, they were sitting in the Élysée Palace, working out their numbers, and they went, "We're not sure we're going to win this vote." Yeah. So there's a part of the Constitution that they invoked which allowed them to do basically an executive order and to push through the law on that. And that has sparked incredible levels of anger and suddenly made this a much wider thing. So, that, I mean, cars are being burnt on the streets of Paris and things like that.
Why has this been such a trigger? I suppose when you can make a move like that and subvert what feels like the democratic process to get to that point is terrifying and should get a reaction. But why in particular has this hit such a nerve, do you think?
As is so often the case, it's frustration. So how Emmanuel Macron won again, and indeed probably his first term of office, was he somehow managed to eliminate the other moderate competition. So all the centrists and all the moderates, he eliminated them and he became the voice of moderation. And what happened then as a result of that is on the left and the right, the extremes came out to play, so that by the time he went to the elections, it was him versus Marine Le Pen, who is quite far right. She's fairly extreme. And so if you are there and you're a moderate-thinking, centrist-thinking French person, you don't like Macron, what's your choice, Marine Le Pen? And so it's that anger that this oak that's in office must change things.
Yeah. You were supposed to offer us a more chilled option here. Why are you doing these crazy things?
Yeah.
I get that. The world has gone crazy just a little bit. How are we feeling about the banks? 2 American banks gone bust, and Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, now the contagion. And just that word in itself is terrifying, as now moving to Credit Suisse, where is this in? Are we seeing a new world order emerging? How angry should the world be that banks exist in this state? Are we going to see bailouts? What is going on in the world of global banking right now?
Well, we are seeing a bailout in a way. It's not going to be 2008. And we really didn't push the banks hard enough after that. When we dealt with the consequences of that, we realized just how rarefied a world and how powerful a world the banks move in.
But then we did nothing about it and let them carry on. Now we go through it again.
and so the situation now to rescue Credit Suisse, UBS is going to, which is another Swiss bank, they're going to take over Credit Suisse, but they have a deal with the Swiss government, and it's really in the Swiss government's interests to make sure banks don't fail. So they're going to get 2 trillion rand in liquidity guarantees so that no matter how much money people take out of there, there'll be money to support it. Not only that, 176 billion rand in guarantees against losses. So even if they lose 176 billion rand in this deal, UBS will get that money back from the Swiss government. And that's problematic. That, I'm afraid, means that potentially this cycle is just going to continue. As long as there isn't consequence, then there's not going to be a change in behavior.
Well, I mean, the way even hearing you say that, a consequence for the bank, we are saying, of course, because someone has to pay that money somewhere along the line. And when you look at that little chain, I have a feeling it's the man. It's you and I.
It's the Swiss taxpayer in this case.
Yeah, which I think they're all right for now, but I have a feeling this is going to, I think, change the way that most of us see the banking world and how much importance is there. The rarefied air up there is incredible. We'd love to hear from you if you're affected in any way about any of the issues that we have spoken out today. And please, if you can update us and your community on what's going on in your area and help keep others safe, we'd love to hear from you. 063-408-8863. Send us pics, send us vids, send us your opinions. Roy, you're a legend. Thank you so much, my man.